Mayor, members of council, Mr. Berry, Mr. Crone. Tonight I'd like to present to you just a summary of your retreat trips that we took to different cities and the culmination of those visits and discussions with other elected officials and community leaders and a potential plan for you to consider. So the title of it's Inspiring Spaces Plan, and we'll go into more detail. This is a presentation that builds off of the meeting that we held at the Salt Block at the end of February. And just for the public's benefit, we want to go ahead and recapture some of those comments and ideas that came out of that meeting. So, as you recall, over the last 6 or 8 months, we've traveled to 5 or 6 different cities, day trips, one overnight trip. And going through those meetings and those discussions with the community leaders, there were several themes that really came out, that were brought out in those cities, and those cities were selected because they had experienced economic decline and had really pulled themselves back up out of that decline and into a place that's a destination for lots of people to go to. They've really transformed their cities over a long period of time, but they have done that. And so there were 4 key things that we felt came out of those meetings that you all identified. And first was just investment in the public spaces in those cities. Everywhere we went, there was attention to detail along riverfronts, along walkways, in their downtowns, in neighborhoods, in their park spaces. And so that's been a key thing that we noticed. Also, just an important aspect of economic development is redevelopment, and each of those cities had an important role to play in redevelopment, whether it was through grants or through purchase of buildings or encouraging and recruiting major companies to come to the area. So that was always at the top of their list. And then providing venues and programming for great outdoor events, special events, partnering with places like the community theater or like a performing arts center. All of those were very important aspects of the cities that made that transformation possible. And then finally, just making sure that they knew who the players are that had invested over many years, families that had invested their dollars in that community, and making sure that those relationships were still there for future partnerships. And so with that, now in Greenville specifically, we had a speaker there, Philip Hughes, who is a developer in Greenville, had spent a lot of time in Greenville, and he had that statement to say, specifically that the character of the heart and soul of the community is something that needs to be taken seriously. And I won't read it for you, you can see it up there. So that led us into the discussion that we had about all of the priorities that you have for this year. So with that comes one opportunity to implement your goals and objectives for the following year, and that would be potentially to do an Inspiring Spaces Plan. And so what is that? Well, the name is just taken from our brand. Inspiring is one of the brand words from the Hickory brand print, but it just means making sure that our roadways, our park spaces, our public areas, and the functionality of those spaces is the best it can be, and improving those that need to be improved. And so one of the ways you do that is just to think about those areas that are a little leftover, a little run down, and thinking about a transformation. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in one budget year, obviously, but these are plans that we can take and think about over the next 10 or 12 years. And so the plan, if you were to go forward with it, would include all of these things listed above and possibly more. Thinking about bikeways. And the nice thing about this is that we have so many of these plans already in place. The steps that are missing are to go ahead and coordinate the implementation of those plans into a capital project improvement plan over a period of time and identify a funding source to pay for those improvements. So you can see the list of possible things there. Economic development is the real driver for why we want to take care of our spaces, because we want to attract people, new people into this area. We want to encourage job growth. We want to think about new large business as well as small business, and whether you are the larger company or the entrepreneur with the small company, you're looking for that quality of life. And we had a recent instance where someone decided not to relocate to Hickory because they were just not enamored enough with the quality of life here. And so we really don't want that to happen. We want those choices to be obvious ones. And if there's a piece of that we can improve upon, that we can do through the public sector, then that's what we feel like our role should be. So you're thinking about the plan itself. We have land use plans and we have lots of other different planning tools. But in this plan, what you would find is a set of recommendations. You'd find some detailed site plans. You'd find an actual estimate of probable cost for some of the key projects. And then you'd have some rendering, so you actually know what something looked like. And all of this would come about, and let me just go through these before I get to that step. So just as an example, this is from the City of Statesville plan. And they get into the details of curb and gutter, landscaping, right-of-way, street trees. And they go into designs that people can visualize, 2D and 3D. And they actually cost out, as if it were a construction project, the most probable cost for that project, so you know ahead of time what it would be. And then they provide renderings, so before and after, for key spaces that might need transformation. And so in this project, there's a phase 1, which would include gathering the data that we have already available, making sure we're implementing things in our greenway and bikeway master plans, things in our Hickory by Choice, things from City Center, lots of even the Downtown Vision Forum recently held. Phase 2 would include taking those ideas, putting it into a final plan, and then having the visuals prepared so that we can head into community meetings and gather input. We then develop a budget and a timeline for construction and think about improving those ideas. So, who does that work? Well, there's a coordination that needs to happen between the community and the city council. And so a steering committee will be appointed by the city. This project usually takes about 7 to 8 months, and you come up with a list of projects that are prioritized. But you have a full plate, a full menu, and then you pick 5 or 6 or 3 or 4 that are key that you want to start with. And then it takes maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 15. It just depends on what the scope of the projects that are identified. Thinking about how to pay for those is a key part of this project. And so the next step is to think about this type of task force or steering committee, and to think about a contract with a design firm. And so in thinking about how to take this plan and shape Hickory for the next generation to enjoy the spaces that you find all along our streets. This is a quote that came from Greenville, and in Greenville, when Mr. Hughes started his company, it was not a place where he was very proud of to start this company, and it really transformed, and it took 20 years. But now when you're there, it's alive, and I think that same level of energy and excitement can happen in many cities. It just needs the vision to begin that process in an orderly manner. And so with that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
When do you think we might begin the community meetings?
You know, those are a fall timetable. Yeah. The steering committee would start prioritizing the work and brainstorming on what it is what corridors need to be looked at, whether that's Old Lenore Road, Highway 127, or Center Street up to Beaumont, whether that's Highland Avenue out toward LR. There's lots of spaces that we can improve upon. They would just begin those planning projects, and then the company would go and work on the plans themselves, getting them fixed or to a point where the public can understand, okay, these are the ideas that they have. And then I think prioritization can happen through that public process.